All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so excited about today because we're doing something a little different. We've been doing a lot of different stuff lately, but today I have an amazing guest that I have been dying to get on and just collaborate with so that she can just drop some real valuable information to you guys. We have Liya Yohannes, and basically my reasoning for inviting Liya here today is because as women, as entrepreneurs, we go through so much, we're juggling so much, and mindset plays a huge role in how successful you can become as an entrepreneur. And Liya is here today to really just share some valuable information on how we can get unstuck, how she has really been able to thrive and adapt in really challenging situations. And Liya, I just want to welcome you. Thank you so much for your time today. How are you?
I am doing great, and it's such an honor to be here today, Chris.
Thank
Thank
you,
you so
thank you,
much.
thank you. And why don't you tell us where you are streaming from today? Where are you from?
I am from Dallas, Texas. Well, in between Dallas and Fort Worth, so
Oh,
in the
okay.
state of Texas.
That is amazing. I have yet to make my way down to Texas, but now that you and I have connected, I might have to
You
make my
have to.
way down there a
Yeah.
lot sooner. I am streaming from Massachusetts, and one of the first questions that you can answer for us is just tell us a little bit about your business and who it is that you help.
Okay, so I am a lifestyle coach, which means I don't just focus on one aspect. We are multifaceted beings, so I believe that our bodies, our minds, our spirits, our relationships have to be in sync for us to really have a fulfilling life. So I help women who feel stuck or just who have challenges and obstacles figure out what those are so that they can go forward, and I help them gain the tools and the confidence to be able to achieve their goals, whatever they may be, whether it's fitness goals, health goals, financial goals, relationship goals. So that's what I do.
That is awesome. And the key word right there is confidence. That is something that a lot of women struggle with, and it can really get in the way from going after bigger opportunities, achieving your goals, going for a promotion, making a career change, starting a business. If you
Uh,
don't have the confidence, then you're really just limiting yourself and can prevent yourself from being so wildly successful. So I love that you are helping women with this. So tell me, why did you decide to start your business?
Honestly, this business was birthed out of a need for myself. I felt stuck. I even when I was a little girl, I always knew I was created for something more, but
Mhm.
I felt stuck for years where I couldn't see the bridge to the other side. And once I got to a place where I was able to do things, I just pushed through. I pushed through my fear, I pushed through obstacles, and when I was able to accomplish a lot of the things that I hadn't been able to do for decades, I thought, I can't keep this to myself. I have to help other women get out of survival mode. So honestly, I feel like I'm a bridge builder now for other women.
Ooh, I love that. And yeah, I mean, once you just, it's funny that we're having this conversation because I was talking about this earlier on a podcast where he had asked about childhood and like, did I always want to be an entrepreneur? And I feel like it's just something that's in you sometimes when you just know that this is what you're meant to be doing. You're not meant to be working for someone else, building
Absolutely.
someone else's dreams, and you want to help people. So I think that is so, so awesome. Thank you for sharing that for me.
Absolutely.
One question that I just thought of is what would you say has been your biggest challenge as an entrepreneur? Because I know that we all have our own challenges. Being an entrepreneur is so, so difficult. And that's why maybe like 1% of people actually become entrepreneurs because it feels a lot safer and easier to work a job. But what has been your biggest challenge or what challenges have come up that you faced in your journey?
If I had to pick one, the biggest one would be imposter syndrome. I mean, that
Mm,
is such, it chains you. And it's like nobody's there. You're an entrepreneur, especially. So there's nobody there to push you. You have to do it yourself. And for me, there were times where I thought, am I good enough to do this? Who am I to tell other people what to do or give advice? Even when I was writing my book, I felt like, okay, is my story really that important? But I realized it is a disservice to ourselves, to
Yes.
God, to not share our gifts because there are
Mhm.
people who need what we have. So that really is what pushed me past those thoughts and those doubts.
Ooh, I love that, and it's so, so true, and one thing that I learned along the way, I think that I mean, I don't know if you consider yourself a perfectionist or not, but
Yeah. Oh,
people tend to refer to me as one, and we tend to feel as though we have to have everything
yeah.
perfect. We have to be an expert in order to be worthy or deserving of that title of a coach or to actually help people. But in actuality, you really only need to be a couple steps ahead of the person that you're needing to help. So
That's so true.
yeah, and that's what I try to remind my clients of and other people who are like, well, who am I to, charge X amount of dollars for my services? And it's like, no, you deserve to be paid what you're worth. And as long as you are a few steps ahead of whoever it is that you're trying to help, you will be good.
Absolutely. And even you, like, honestly, you are younger than me, but I have learned so much from you because to me, I never look at someone and say, I look at it as an age thing. It's an experience thing, it's a wisdom thing,
Yes.
it's a character thing, this person is more bold in this area than I am, and I will learn from anybody. I don't care if they're younger or older. So,
I am the same way. Knowledge is knowledge. And if it will help you shift the needle in your business, I mean,
yes.
one of my coaches is like probably 10 or so years younger than me. And I mean, the amount of information that I've been able to learn that has really shifted the needle in my business is life changing. So it's really about, one, obviously working with reputable coaches and
Yes.
business owners, but it doesn't matter how old they are as long as they can help with providing that transformation. I totally, totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Um, One thing that my audience will probably want to know, because as women who have families, children, husbands, wives, what have you, how can someone make time for their dreams if they are juggling a lot in life? What recommendations or advice do you have?
My main thing I would say is we make time for what's important to us. So the first thing I do is take inventory of my time. Where is it going? And budget it just like you would money.
Hmm.
Because even if you're taking 30 minutes a day to focus on your goals, you are still shifting the needle. It may not
Hmm.
look like much, but eventually it'll compound and you'll see results. Consistency is where it's at. So I think it's just cutting out the non essentials and making sure that you go after your time becomes more precious so
Hmm.
that you can achieve those goals.
Oh my goodness, time is so, so valuable. It is like the
Yes.
most valuable resource and you can't get it back. I always say that money, you can make money back, but time you
Exactly.
can't. So, like you said, with taking that inventory, taking a
Mhm.
look at where your time is being spent is so important. And we have to be productive because that's how we start taking those
Yes.
steps towards reaching our goals. And we have to take inventory of things like who we're spending our time with, what we're spending our time on, and if there are things that we can cut back on so that we can
Yes.
start, seeing success in other areas. And then you also touched on something which is so beautiful, which you mentioned consistency. A
Yes.
lot of people tend to forget about how important consistency is. We live in a world right now where a lot of people are seeking instant gratification.
Gratification. Yeah.
Sometimes they don't want to put in the work or they're wondering why their content isn't performing or their business isn't doing well. And then when you ask them, what are you doing every single day to promote your business or to get it out there? And they're just like the emoji with their hands like this
Yeah.
because they're not doing the steps to stay consistent every single day. They're not doing the outreach. They're not putting out
Yes.
content
Yep.
every single day or every week so that they can continue to feed their audience and be seen. Because if you are not consistent, you better believe your competitors are going to be consistent and they're going to be the ones that's getting the clients, getting the opportunities. So I just think consistency is crucial when you are trying to achieve, set and achieve goals in your life and in your business.
I agree, absolutely. And it's a tough lesson because at first you don't see anything happening, but you
Yeah.
still have to keep going.
Oh, is there anything that comes to mind for you where you felt like something wasn't happening, but then when you started to be really consistent, you're like, wow, this is like a flower, it's growing. Is there anything?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, I can even pinpoint to when I started lifting weights. At first, I thought, I don't see my body changing. I don't see anything happening. And the cool thing is, I think other people see it before you do. So that I think my fitness journey has helped me even in this entrepreneurial journey because before I just kept going. I just kept
Mhm.
going. I just kept showing up. I just kept lifting weights. And eventually I was like, oh, okay, I see, I see my butt lifting or stuff happening. And I mean, I don't want to look 45, honestly. So it's
You
it's
don't. You
amazing.
look incredible.
Thank you.
And why don't you tell people what your IG is so that they can follow you?
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
go ahead, drop that real quick. What's your
Okay.
IG?
It's like my name on the screen, Liya, Leah underscore Johannes, Yohannes, another underscore, because you wouldn't believe my name is common. Even, and, I
I
mean,
would
some
not
people, yeah,
think that. I would not think that at all. But the
yeah,
reason why I wanted you to drop your name is because your content is so inspiring. And I love that story you just told about the fitness because a lot of people, when they're told, okay, you need to work out, and I'm guilty of this too because I just don't know what the hell I'm doing when it comes to
I didn't either.
like the machines and all
Yep,
the stuff. It's overwhelming, and
yeah,
then when you don't see the results, I mean, the
yeah,
only results I've seen at times is just sore legs and arms,
yeah,
and then I'm like,
yeah.
I don't look any different, I just feel horrible.
I
but
know, I know.
but what is so amazing about what you said is you just keep doing it, and that's kind
Yes,
of my approach when it comes to marketing and social media, where you start at 0. I
absolutely.
started at 0. I didn't have any following at first, and it's amazing how you nurture it and you continue to feed, your social media, and it
Yes,
continues to grow and grow over time. And fitness and working out is just like that. But your content is super inspiring. You're lifting the
yeah,
weights, you're dancing, your energy is awesome. So
thank you.
I encourage anyone who watches this to definitely go and check her out on Instagram because in TikTok, your content
Yes,
is really, really inspiring. Thank you for sharing everything that you do on it and just being so
absolutely.
vulnerable in your content and telling your stories. I love it.
Thank you.
And speaking of like inspiration and all of that, how important is mindset when it comes to being an entrepreneur? I would love to get your thoughts on that.
Man, it is crucial because like I said earlier, there's nobody there. Like if you don't feel like working, nobody's gonna come say, hey, clock in.
Yep.
So it's all on you. And for me, honestly, in every aspect of life, I felt like I'm gonna pay whatever it takes to get my mindset to where it needs to be. Like it's
Yeah.
priceless, honestly, to have that. And as an entrepreneur, I would say you'd have to have a big enough why, a big enough reason to pull
Mhm.
you out of the times you want to quit, out of the times you're doubtful, because it can't be that.
My
Yeah,
camera, one
I know,
second.
I
I don't
know.
know why my camera just hold on a second.
And then
There
you're
we go. I'm sorry about that.
back.
Go ahead. You were saying that mindset's really
Mindset
important.
is, yeah, mindset is crucial. And honestly, as an entrepreneur, you have to have a reason that's just deep enough and big enough to pull you out of doubt. So, for instance, you can't have a why that's, well, I want to make enough money to have a bigger house. Okay, you get the house, then what? It needs to be something where you want to own your time. You don't want anybody to cap how much you can make. You want to retire yourself. You want to retire a parent. You want to send your kids through college, whatever it may be. It needs to be big enough to surpass materialistic things. Really, I think it's based on just time freedom. And
Yeah, 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 yeah. Having that why is what will
yes,
really motivate you. And you have to have that in mind because just like we talked about the challenges in
yes,
life and in becoming an entrepreneur and growing your business, there's going to be constant setbacks. And if you don't have a really solid why, then you're just going to throw in the towel and be like, all right, on to the next thing. But
Absolutely.
the real magic happens is when you have a dream or something that is so important to you, whether it be, I want to give this all I have for my kids or for my mom or for myself to get out of a really bad situation and into one that will make me more happier and fulfilled.
Yep.
You have to have that big enough why. And that is what really sets the people who are really successful apart from the people who end up maybe trying the business thing for maybe a year or so and then they give up and they move on to the next thing. So
Yeah.
having that why is super important, and I love that you shared that with us.
Absolutely.
um so a lot of people are going to want to know a little bit more about your services and what you offer. We know about the transformation, but talk to us a little bit about, do you work with people one to one? Is it group coaching? What does
Okay.
that look like when people work with you?
So I do one to one as well as group coaching. So with the one to one, it just depends on whatever that person's goals are. So if it's fitness or eating healthier, I try to design a regimen for them to follow to where I give them the step by step tangible process. The group coaching, I'm actually in the process of launching my newest one, which I'm really excited about. It's going to be a 4-week process. A lot of women have been reaching out to me struggling with eating healthy and working out.
Mm,
So I'm going to take them through the discipline, the tangible process of how to shop, how to eat for a lifetime. So it's sustainable, how to work
mhm.
out, whether they want to work out at home or go to the gym, and the things that I've been doing for the last 20 years. That's what I'm going to be giving in the signature workshop that I'm designing. So that's
Wow.
what I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, and eating right and healthy is, it's
Oh,
important, right? And
100%.
the feedback that I get a lot of the times when the conversations come up about eating healthy is about how expensive it can be. Like, I know there's the Whole Foods and all these places that you can go to get like the natural organic stuff, but it can get really expensive. So do you have any tips, or and maybe there is no tips and you just have to buy expensive food, but do you have any tips on how someone can eat healthier, or like the best way to go about prepping healthier foods or getting healthier foods, but maybe not you get what I'm saying, like
Yeah,
not spend so much money,
yeah.
or if there is there an economical way to buy food, like what works for you as far as like eating healthier but not breaking the bank?
Absolutely. So first, honestly, I would say it's a mindset. So you either pay now or you pay later. So
Mm,
what that means is you either pay a little bit more now for your food or you
mhm,
pay later with your health, which is irreversible. And the point you get to where your energy changes, I mean, food and moods are connected. Depression, just all the, I mean, yes, depression is a real thing. There's a chemical imbalance, but there's also
mhm.
a side of it that you can tackle so many things with food. And if you make your body a powerhouse, like I never get sick. Let me knock on wood. I don't get sick. And I really attribute that to how I eat and
Mm,
hydrate and sleep. I mean, I could do better on my sleep, but I know what to do to make sure that I make my body fight whatever I need to get through. So if I get sick, it's for like maybe a day or so. So
mhm.
to me, that's priceless. Um,
Yeah, it
and
is
you know, when you eat
priceless.
out, that adds up. You may not see it at the time, but it adds up. So just getting, like, I don't get everything organic. There are main things that I'll get organic, like meat, yes, eggs, I will. Vegetables and fruits, there's some called the dirty dozen that you
Mhm,
absolutely want to make sure that you get those organic. So there's so many things, and then buying things in packages when it's more convenient, it costs more. So it does
mm,
take a little bit of time to, you know, it's less convenience, but it's worth it in the long run because you feel different, you look different. I don't work out as much as I eat right. So that really helps me stay healthy. So if you can imagine,
mm.
that's really where, you know,
Yeah,
that
and it makes sense.
yeah.
'Cause if you eat junk food all the time and then you're working out, it kinda
Yeah,
negates. So
exactly.
you can
Absolutely.
I like that. I like the thought of at least eating better and not
Yes.
having to work out like
Yeah.
crazy
You don't,
two,
yeah.
three times a day. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
That is
Awesome.
awesome.
Absolutely.
So, in one of our previous conversations, you had started talking about some sentences that have shifted your life. And I would love for you to talk a little bit more about that so that, anyone listening can maybe apply that for their own life. And, you never know who you can help
Yeah,
who's watching this. So
that's
talk
very
about that.
there. I will pick my top two that were just life changing for me. So the first one is the story you tell yourself matters more than the story itself. The story you tell yourself matters more than the story itself. That was instantly healing for me. And a quick backstory how I came to that point was my dad dropped me off at the airport in Ethiopia at 15 years old to migrate here to stay with my relatives.
Mm,
And I did not see him for the next 15 years. So around
mm,
29 years old, I mean, we talk on the phone and all that. So he calls me, let's say, I think it was like July, and he says, guess what? We're coming for Christmas. We're all going to be together for Christmas. So this is July. So December, we're going to be together. That means my father, my mother, my sister, my brother, and I are going to be in the same space that we have not occupied in the last 15 years.
hmm.
He dies of cancer in October.
Oh, no.
And I was like, wow, God, that was such a cruel joke. Like we were that close to seeing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I'm kind of chewing on that. And my godmother calls me to offer her condolences. And when I told her that, she said, Leah, what if God was taking him away from something worse than death? And in
Mm,
that moment, I was like, wait, what can be worse than death? But yeah, like what I'm seeing, me seeing my father, I'm not seeing in a way it's kind of selfish, but I'm not seeing his pain. I don't know
mm-hmm,
exactly, what it was gonna if it was gonna get worse, if he was gonna be bedridden, like he left before all that happened.
mm,
And I'm telling you, just the way I shifted the story,
mm-hmm,
it was different. From that point, it was instantly healing for me to think that. Um, the other one I love is what are you here to teach me? That
mm,
is that is so empowering for me. There have been situations where, let's say, you're in a relationship, it ends, or there's some distance, and you go to that person and you're like, okay, I'm the person where, like, tell me, just rip the band aid off. Let's have the brutal conversation. I don't care. Tell me the truth so I can just move on. Most
mm-hmm,
people have a really hard time, in my experience, having those tough conversations. I don't know if it makes them feel bad about themselves to be that honest, but usually when I go to a person who doesn't really want to have that conversation, I come away with even more questions than answers. And I
mm-hmm,
can't control that. So I decided, you know what, let me shift this. What can I control? I can control me. So instead of asking questions that never get answers, now I focus on, okay, you're here to teach me something, especially when it's really painful. I'm like, oh, this is going to be a big lesson. So I
mm,
focus on what are you here to teach me? And then I say, thank you for the lesson. And I can move on with peace.
mm.
Those two are like my main sentences that just I hold on to in times of doubt, fear, challenges,
And you just say them out loud to yourself, like you just say it.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
What are you?
It's interesting to hear someone else say that they talk to themselves because
Yep.
I do too sometimes
Yeah.
because it's almost like therapy sometimes. Just
Yes.
either talking to yourself and saying those sentences that will change your life or
Absolutely.
journaling
Yes.
really, really are
Exactly.
helpful to
Yeah.
get your emotions out of the way and to just figure out, all right, how do I move past this? Because I can't
Absolutely.
continue to stay stuck. It's not, I'm doing myself a disservice to sit here and wallow in
Yeah.
whatever it is that I have going on. So I love that. I really, really love that. That's so inspiring.
Thank you.
Okay. One thing that my audience must know, and they're going to be like super pumped about this, is that you're an author. You have a book out. I would love for you to tell us more about it, tell us where people can get it.
Absolutely. So my book is on Amazon. It is called Memoirs of a Young Ethiopian Girl. It is my journey from the age of 15, like I said earlier, when my dad dropped me off at the airport and I came to the United States. And it just chronicles that journey through loss, grief, doubt, fears, mental and emotional abuse. And to the other side where now I'm 45 and I'm in a place where I have more peace, I have more joy, I have more love in my life. And I hope that my story, I mean, I'm not saying my story is just the story of all, you know, there's people with worse or better stories than myself, but
Mhm.
I just hope that it allows even one person to know your story matters, your voice is important, and just this healing journey is possible for yourself just to peel the layers and get through it. So if one person feels like that, I have done my job.
That is incredible. Your story is it's very interesting. And one thing that interests me, and I've had other conversations with people who are interested in writing books, is what was the process like writing the book? What are some steps that you took to get started? Did you go through like a literary agent? What did that process look like for you?
So for me, the first thing I did was hire a writing coach. And I will, that's the one piece of advice I'll give is whatever you want to do in life, if you haven't done it, hire an expert
Mm,
because you're paying for someone else's experiences and they get you there faster. They give you the blueprint, you avoid some of the trials and errors. So
mhm,
that's what I would say in any area of life. So I hired a writing coach. I did have to write myself. I had to edit. She would read and give me feedback, but I had to do that part of the work myself. And then she helped me publish on Amazon. But the biggest part wasn't her helping me write, it was her holding space for me to believe in myself, to give me a blueprint of, okay, you have the story in your head and your heart and just bringing that to life, the
mhm.
process of the step by step process of bringing that to life. And in the times that I doubted myself, she would say, come on, push through. I did it. You can do it. And just holding that space for me. So that's, I think, what was more important than the writing aspect of it is having someone just hold you accountable and encourage.
Ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that. So get a coach. That's especially helpful because if you haven't written a book before, I mean, that's a whole other realm and ball game. So I am 100% with you with getting a coach or I mean, just with anything. You and I are the same in that aspect. If I am trying to get something done and I've never done it before, I
Mhm.
want to get a coach just to avoid some of those pitfalls, get to where
Yeah,
I need to be faster. So
yeah,
I am a
absolutely.
firm, firm believer in investing in yourself and self-improvement, and yes.
That always
So,
pays off.
is there any other advice that you would give to, someone writing their first book outside of the coach? Like, whether they feel like, "My story's not good enough
Mm.
to write a book." What advice would you tell to that person?
I would say that I think all of us have a story in us. And you may
Mhm,
feel like, well, why is mine important? Or there are already 100, books on this subject, but they don't have your spin on it. They don't have like I feel like we're all designed for a purpose that is just specific to us. We have our fingerprint on it. So I would say start writing, push through the doubt and keep writing because sometimes it's like a muscle. If you've never worked it out before, it only gets stronger over time.
mhm,
So I would say keep writing, don't censor, just carve time out every day. Like for me it was 500 words a day. So I would carve that time out, whether it's I get up before everybody else and I put that time in, whether it's at lunchtime, I go to Starbucks. I don't know how I did it in the midst of noise, but I just, put and I wrote 500 words a day. And sometimes I had to be lenient with myself. If I couldn't and I just nothing was coming out, I was like, all right,
mhm,
there's no deadline. Like it's you and it's just you. So writing can be a lonely journey
mm,
because you just have to kind of separate yourself and go in this valley for a little
mhm.
bit and write, but it is so worth it. It was monumental in my healing journey, honestly, to just peel back all the layers and write, write, write. So I wrote, and then I edited. So
That
that's what I
is
would say.
very, very cool. It sounds like a lot of work, but it is
So worth
totally worth it. Yeah, totally worth it when you have that finished product on
Yes.
Amazon, on the
Price
shelves, and you become an author. I mean, that is just
so
to
fulfilling.
be able to say, "Yes, I'm a coach,
I'm,
author."
I'm a published author.
Oh my gosh. I mean, congratulations. That is such an incredible achievement. I'm so proud of you for
Thank
that.
you so much. Absolutely. Thank you.
So you talk a lot about your past experiences. You've been divorced, navigating in creating a new life for yourself. And one thing that you can really elaborate more on for my audience is how can aspiring female entrepreneurs take control over their own lives and not lose their identities if they are married or have a family, or even if they are married and get a divorce? What advice do you have for them?
I would say so. Being a mother and a wife are it's a high calling. It feels very fulfilling, very purposeful. I remember that season of my life, and I'm still in part of that season, but it was one of the best. And I mean, of course, there's challenges to it, but it was so fulfilling. And as women, most of us are very nurturing. We want to give, give, give,
Mhm.
whether it's to our parents, our sisters, our friends, our children, our husbands, whatever it is in relationships. We love building and nurturing. So we kind of get addicted to that feeling of purpose and that nurturing, and we forget that we don't really ask for much in return. We don't refill. That's
Mm.
when we get in trouble. So we make everybody dependent on us, and it feels more efficient to do things ourselves instead of ask or delegate. So what I've learned is to teach my children what to do so that this is a team effort. So we're going to divide these things up. So one thing I did with them was especially after the divorce, because it was just going to be me full time. I mean, my ex-husband is very supportive. He's right around the corner, but really in the
That's
house
so
is,
rare.
and honest, yeah, that's a whole other subject. Just I feel like we just honored each other in knowing our journey was over, but
Mhm.
we're just going to move into another type of relationship with each other,
Yeah.
co-parent. So I told my daughters to come to me, and I said, okay, put your hands out. And I had these big encyclopedia type books, and I piled them on. I said, these are the bills. This is my job. This is me writing a book. This is the house chores, and they're like,
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
heavy. And I said, okay, so I don't pile on unnecessary books on me, and I won't pile on unnecessary books on you. So let's divide
Mm.
things. So if we can be a team and think of each other, then we can operate in this house together. So I would say for especially mothers, make your children and your spouses more self-sufficient, not to depend on you. Refill, because once your role changes, like let's say your kids grow up and go away, or your marriage ends, or it enters in a different season, who are you? So when
Mm.
your role shifts, you want to go beyond that. And God has given each of us something besides being a mother and a wife. Like those are, like I said, high callings, but to make sure that you still nurture that you have boundaries even with your children or your spouses, because they will keep taking. I mean, it's just a
Mhm.
human nature thing to do. It's not because they're spiteful. So I would say make sure that you delegate, that you carve that time out for yourself so that you can still have something for you. Because what I say is have something that belongs to you, because even children belong to themselves.
I love that. I agree with you 100%. It's important to set boundaries. It is important to delegate so you don't go nuts.
Yes.
Even as business owners, coaches, you have to delegate. You don't want to do everything yourself because you will spread yourself so thin and then you'll be no good to yourself or for
Yes.
anyone else for that
Yes.
matter.
That's it. That's where it's
That
at.
is so, so well put. Well, you have you have dropped so many gems. You have given people a lot to think about and really encouraging words. I love your story about just your story, what you've been able to overcome, the fact that you have published your first book and it's available for sale. So make sure you guys go and check that out. Go on Amazon and purchase that book. Why
Yes.
don't you tell everyone again how you would like them to get in contact with you if they'd like to discuss working with you or if they have any questions or just want to follow you?
Absolutely. I am on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. I'm probably on Twitter too. I just don't ever post there.
Me
Under Liya Yohannes, like my name. There are, I think, a bit variations on it, but when you see my face, you'll know it's me. So on Instagram, especially Liya underscore Yohannes underscore. And I would love to connect and just encourage anyone who comes in my circle and build a community.
Wonderful. Thank you for all of this wonderful information that you have provided to everyone. I know that they're going to eat all of it up and probably rewatch this a bunch because there's been so many nuggets of information. I know we talked about a lot of different stuff here and learned more about your journey, but This has been incredible. Thank you so much for joining me today and talking more about your story.
Thank you so much, Chris, for having me.
You're very welcome.
Bye.